finely tuned athletes at the peak of their physical fitness. And then there's my next guests. Because next Monday evening, the 17th, there is the four-man team from Donegal, namely Team Donegal Oil, the only team in fact from Ireland that undertook and, as it turned out, completed the 3,000-mile cycle from the west to the east coast of America, race across America. They did it earlier this year, and there's a documentary being shown in Century Cinemas about it on Monday evening, all the money going to charity. So I'm delighted to say that Arthur McMahon, Gavin Harris, Port McGinty and Jared Callahan join me now in the studio. Gentlemen, yes.
Can I just interrupt you first, John, straight away?
Hello? Yes.
Yeah, I want to interrupt you because
Who said that?
Porrick said
Yes, Porrick.
it wasn't 3,000 miles.
It
was 3,200. See those last 200 miles? They were difficult.
They were a killer.
They were a killer. I just had to get over the line.
What about the other 3,000 though?
They were easy enough. The last 200 I was serious.
He only did the last 200.
I was actually going to say we put him off the bike for the last 200.
So you did it anyhow because the last time you were here, it's a lot of trepidation and you were lighthearted about it, but it was all ahead of you. You didn't really know what to expect. So how was it tougher and worse than you had expected, or did it, loosely speaking, go to plan?
It really did go to plan, and look, there were wee bits of deviations from the plan for sure, but that's always going to happen. 4 cyclists, 12 crew, it's a big, group to take along with you. But, if you can ride the bike in Donegal, you can ride it anywhere, and we didn't come across any, bits of terrain or anything that were any harder than,
But what about the weather?
Yeah, that was tough.
Donegal weather's tough enough, but in a different way.
It is, but if you the way we organised it, John, was that we were really not on the bike for more than about 30 or 40 minutes at a time. So you do a 30 or 40 minute stint. So you'd be on duty for 6 hours, but within that 6 hours, well, mostly Gavin and I did 8 hours. But if you're on duty, yeah, a little more determined. And so if say you're on duty for 6 hours, you and your partner, your buddy, you'll be on the bike and off the bike for 30 minutes at a time. So 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off, and that
over
way,
a 6 hour period, and
then interval training for 6 hours, 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off, and so you were just really recovering and cooling down from your 30 minutes on the bike, and then you're back on it again. Right. So it was properly hard.
Yeah, it was, because I was chatting to you, Porrick, in the course of it, and you were in the midst of the storm at that stage.
Yeah, that was a bad storm.
It sounded bad.
Yeah, we don't get those in Donegal, to be honest.
Right.
And to be honest, Arthur and Gavin saw the worst part of that storm that night. They had to get off the bike for a wee while because they were literally lifting off the road.
There was thunder and lightning?
Yeah, proper hurricane, apparently.
Yeah, tornado.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so the extremes of weather, and what about the heat starting off? Because the western part of the country, I suppose, would have been extremely hot, cycling through desert and stuff. Jared, do you want to come in there?
I will. Just sort of from a general point of view, like really and truly, the first 2 days were the hardest for a couple of reasons. So basically, from the start, we'd never done anything like this before, so you've got the added sort of stress of wondering are you going to finish or not.
Yeah.
And from the start line, you're basically, the nerves are there for 2 days. You're wondering, but once you get the first 2 days over between hills and heat, and then getting a pace that you're confident you're going to finish it with. I mean, we were able to relax then after sort of day 2 or day 3 and really got to enjoy it a bit more.
And the hills would be unlike any hills here, because I'd imagine they'd be a lot longer.
There's I can honestly put my hand in my heart and say that there was nowhere harder to cycle in America than what you'll find around home. If you can cope in Donegal, basically you can cope anywhere in the world. The differences are the length of time that you'll be climbing in the States, but let's face it, if you go out for 3 hours in Donegal, you could be going into a head one for 3 hours, so you're basically going into the same effort.
Find plenty of hills and steeper gradients.
The gradients in America will be a lot less now, to be honest. You wouldn't have anything. You could have a 12-mile climb, but it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be near as bad as going up even, sort of Knockalla or, Knockalla at home and stuff will be steeper. And also the road surfaces over there too. Most cases will be a lot better,
Yeah.
So you can sort of get into a wee tempo and roll along nicely,
And Gavin, you stuck to main roads?
Stuck to the roads, stuck to the main roads, and road surface wasn't too bad, but there was parts of the road where these heat joints on the road. So like every maybe 40 yards there's an expansion joint, and you kept hitting that in the bike, and that was very off-putting because you know you were just like hitting that boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, and then
How
you
was
had
it on the bikes? I mean, did it take its toll on wheels and tires?
Not really, no. I think for the whole way, I think with 2 punctures the whole way going across, with no mechanical trouble, with 2 punctures, and
The whole way across the
Right.
States?
whole way across.
If
2
you saw the amount
punctures.
of kit we brought with us, John, you
Yeah.
know, you could have built 10 bicycles.
Well, you had to be repaired.
Yeah.
Because I was just going to ask you that about the whole logistics about it. It's because it's essentially a rolling circus, and you have to think about your spares and your kit, all the cycling gear,
Yeah, nutrition.
food, nutrition. So
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot to
Circus was a
comprehend.
good word to use too.
And this is, you know, we were in it, and one of the reasons we wanted to bring such a big media sort of group was, you know, Grace Ann and Ryan with this was because, you know, we knew that when you get into the middle of this, and we've done these kind of races before, and you can't really, because it's such a blur, because you're just looking at the sort of 2 square meters of tarmac in front of the bike at all times, because, you know, there are places where potholes you could bury a dog in, and that's lights out. You know, if you, for you as a cyclist, if you hit one of those, you know, Gavin had a fall, and we were worried. You know, anytime you have a fall, you know, you risk hurting yourself. But also, if that had happened early doors, and we'd been down to 3 cyclists, then there was this serious risk that you weren't going to get finished. You know, so we knew that we weren't really going to remember a lot about this event. And that's why having Grace Ann and Ryan there to record the whole thing so good. So now we haven't seen this documentary that we're going to see on Monday night yet, and we're not going to see it until
Monday
we
night.
see it in the cinema. So
Only right and proper.
yeah, and so the thing about that documentary is you can, you know, roll up to the Eventbrite website and buy tickets for €10 or so, around about €10, and all the proceeds go to charity. And we'll have a few on the night if you rock up and just want to pay cash on the door. But we prefer if you went through Eventbrite because you know that's easier to handle.
Managed.
Yeah, but it's going to be we've not seen this before, even though we were there.
All right. Well, so it's, you'll be looking forward to it as much as, or more so than anybody. It was 20. It was around the clock. It was 24 hours on the road, 6-hour shifts, but about 30 minutes on the road each time. And what other? I mean, what did you have to contend with? What did you have to deal with that you hadn't really seen? And that, you know, what were the main surprises along the way? Let's start right to left. For you, what was perhaps the biggest thing?
Well, they sort of warned us about the snakes before we left, but for some reason the snakes only came after me. Nobody else saw a snake except for me, and I saw
Well, ones that had
snakes.
been driven over by a lorry, I saw a few of them.
Well, everybody saw those.
Yeah.
But,
So
that was one thing. The wildlife and
It would be a wee bit of a head wreck seeing a snake. It would keep you.
well,
One thing to keep you alert, I'd say.
you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning when a snake jumps out of the haze and eats a frog that's jumping across the road in front of you, you know, it gets to, you know, I went to basically the centre of the road after that. But you know, in general, the wildlife, I mean, it's spectacular. I'm not going to try and pretend that it was all hard work. You know, some of the places we were just beautiful. Like, it was spectacular, and there were at night time, the wildlife. There were deer. You know, they were like the size of, I don't know, they were huge. Like, you know, and they were beautiful. You know, at night in some of the forests and some of the national parks we were in. You know, for me probably I'll never get a chance to be back in them again. It was a fantastic experience, really.
If you go back again, it might be an easier experience next time around.
No, I generally tend to make things more awkward for myself as life goes on. So whatever happens, it'll probably be worse.
So Arthur, what about to you? Wildlife, snakes? or what?
So on one particular night, my favourite memory of it is in Kansas, when there's the rarest place, and we're going, everything's straight in Kansas and flat. And so we were traveling between 2 thunder cells, but because everything's so flat, you can't really tell the perspective. You know, so one could be 30 or 40 miles away, one could be 40 or 50 miles away. It's just hard to tell. But they were properly clear skies above us, but properly thunder and lightning going on in these 2 storm cells. Came to T junction, turn left, and now you've got to tip the bike. Now it's a crosswind. Then after that, but whatever happened, and the rain started to come down. Whatever happened between the wind and the thunder and lightning and the rain, it was frogs crossing the road in like a blanket. So every now and again, a frog you'd see a wee frog, come across as you're cycling along, and he would jump just as your bike came along straight into the spokes. So
Yeah,
liquid
and a frog.
Yeah, and then that was followed by cycling along at one point, and a huge animal ran out of the ditch straight across. I thought it was heading for me, and just missed the back wheel. It ran straight across the road between me and the vehicle that was behind me. And the vehicle behind me was only 10, 12 meters behind me, and so this massive animal ran across and behind the thing, and I got on the radio. I was like, what was that? What I didn't, because I was just spotted out of my peripheral vision. And Laura, who's in the follow vehicle, said it was that. I can't remember the name of it. What's it called? And just with that, then I saw a little piece of tumbleweed came across in the crosswind and blew across the front. And so what the massive animal wasn't an animal at all.
Right.
It was a huge piece of tumbleweed that I just spotted out of my peripheral vision. But then this tumbleweed started to come across the road, and it was like playing some sort of game, where you had to avoid the tumbleweed that was coming across it. And then that's when the tornado started, shortly after that.
Frogs and tumbleweed.
It was cracker
Yeah.
place. And Kansas is like that. Nothing's like home.
Warwick, for you, any one thing that stands out, or one thing that you hadn't envisaged, or
It's hard to follow Arthur's hallucinations there, but the scenery just generally, John, for me was just breathtaking. If we go to America, generally with the family, anybody, not just me, you might see Boston for a day or two, or you might see the Big Apple and do the tour, but to cycle across America, what you see is it's just fantastic, and it's on such a big scale.
and you'll see more on the bike than you obviously ever would, in the car.
Totally, you get the smells and you just get it. The memory for me has to be, I was lucky enough to do the sunrise in Monument Valley, and just these pink rocks and the flat surface and the tailwind, and it was just a cyclist's dream. And you're cycling through there whatever 4:30 in the morning, and the hairs on your back are just standing, and it's
Not
just
many moments you get like that on or off.
not many moments, and you just think, now, how lucky a man am I to be here at this present moment in time, because it just can't be repeated. It was just, everything about it was just absolutely perfect, and just beautiful.
Gavin?
I suppose for me, the thing I'll never forget is probably the tornado. And Kansas, it was probably it was one of the scariest things I'd ever experienced. Ferocious. The noise was unbelievable. I never experienced nothing like it in my life. Like we had to take cover at one stage. We didn't think we were going to get out of it because we thought the bikes were gone off the roof, but I don't know how they didn't get off the roof. But no, I'll never forget the tornado. But some experience. I mean, the whole thing was a fantastic experience from the different cultures going across, and the heat and the cold and no.
Well, it's a once in a lifetime experience, and not every day you get a chance to cycle the width of the United States, 3,200 miles, and and raising money along the way, because it's all made of a good cause, and you've been raising money for equipment and support aids for people on the autism spectre, and now this is this night in the cinema is sort of drawing a line under that and saying, this is the end of the fundraising, and after this, then the money is going to be
Distributed, yeah. So we've some time ago, before we went to the States, we put a call out for organisations that work with people on the autistic spectrum to sort of come forward and throw a hat in the ring, basically, to request funding. So we've raised, or hopefully when we get sort of next week out the way, maybe about 15,000 euros, maybe a little bit more, around that anyway. And so we have the job now of trying to find. Well, we've got all the people have already been selected as to how we're going to distribute. It's just kind of work out what it is they need, and we'll go and buy it for them then. And so
How did you manage to get the whole described earlier as a sort of a rolling circus? How did you manage to get that rolling circus on the road in the States? Did you get sponsorship for all of that?
yeah, we have a great sponsor, the Circle K, which is the new name for Topaz, and their fuels brand Miles. So we're effectively Miles by Circle K was our main sponsor, and they were very, very generous to us.
Because you couldn't do it without.
Well, the budget,
major
you know, the
sponsor.
first thing you've got to do, you can't go to say, no matter how good a cyclist you are, you can't go and do that event unless you can raise the budget.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to do it other than raise some sponsorship.
And then everybody had to pony up themselves because
Yeah.
you guys all, dug deep, paid your own expenses, your own airfare
Yeah.
to get out there, and then I presume that you stayed in the camper van for the most part, did you?
Yeah, well, during the build-up, so most of us went out, some of us went out on the Saturday before we started. So we started on Saturday, some of us went out the Saturday beforehand. That was the reason for that, was to get the vehicles, gathered together in one place and to start the fit-out process for those vehicles. But so we had, and to get over the flight, need a few days to get over the flight. So we flew out, some of us a week before, some of us 4 or 5 days before, and we stayed in a place right on the ocean in literally in Oceanside. But we were all jammed in, 3 and 4 to a room type thing. But that was the kind of, we purposely jammed people in 3 and 4 to a room because they had to get on, they had to get used to being jammed in together.
There's bonding and then there's bonding. and what now from here? Well, Jared, it would be remiss of me not to mention that then after that, and in the last few weeks, in fact, you decided to head out for another cycle, and in this case, it was 1,100 kilometres on your own, the Irish Ultra Challenge, here around the roads of Ireland.
Yep.
The obvious question is, what does this?
Well, it was just, I suppose, there was a few sacrifices made all year at home and that with us going to America and stuff. So it was really, it's something I wanted to have a go at myself anyway. I did an FAN for it for over a year, and the kids now are at the age where they're able to travel in the van and the follow vehicle, and we sort of. To be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to finish it or not because I wasn't.
You had really bad weather.
Well, I hit bad weather.
Again.
Even in
Bad weather seems to follow you around.
That's just me, John. So
Bad weather and snakes.
no snakes in Donegal, but to be honest, I think I'd rather have the snakes than the weather we got. So it was basically just an end of season, we family thing, got everybody together, and for me it was just again just to raise a wee bit of a profile come near the end of this fundraising effort, and that's where the Team Donegal Oil came into it, and the boys were with me all the way as well.
All right.
Gavin came down every night from work and took away my washing and got me cleaned up.
Jared was just that well organised. Unbelievable.
So
the fan kitted out.
no,
tea.
basically,
I've seen some of the photos of Van looked rightly kitted out. Right?
as long as there's room for me in the van, and Porrick came with me as well, and Arthur is also a huge help. So it was great to have the boys all involved as well.
So, I mean, I know this is drawing a line under it, and you're the night at the cinema on Monday, and then the distribution of money that you raise. But is that the end of it, or is there possibility of maybe doing something at the team or even duo level next year?
I want to see these boys again for the rest of my life. That's definitely the end of it, John. There's no doubt about it, John. Absolutely, yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Definitely
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
line.
we're
John,
going all separate
We're
directions.
only getting warmed up.
We're trying to, the way that we all come from a sort of a motorsport background, so we're trying to get Arthur to hire a car for us for long and next year,
Right.
24 hours.
Okay.
Me and Gavin's going to drive her and boys to change the tyres.
Anyhow, it's this coming Monday in Century Cinemas in Letterkenny, and some tickets, if you go to eventbrite.ie if you want to get a ticket in advance, which would be great. You organise for numbers and stuff, or there will be a few tickets on the night as well. Starts doors open at 6, starts at 6:30. Chance to see the documentary that was filmed along the way in the race across America.
And your own Oisin Kelly is doing a Q&A session afterwards.
Brilliant. Okay. Congratulations. Well done. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
What a star.
Very professional, John.